Following on from previous videos, we learnt how the Central Government Department for Education DFE had set out non-statutory guidance to steer environmental climate theories and behavioral changes within educational settings. The School Authority. Your current local upper-tier county councils have the discretion to implement this guidance or not. We have since learnt council behavioral change agent officers are implementing programs locally through globally led organizational frameworks. This is global to local.
Indisputable assumption that there is consensus on, for example, man-made climate change due to carbon emissions.
Established in 2010, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, with its ties to the WEF World Economic Forum, is a UK-registered charity that promotes the transition to a circular economy. Locally, county councils have now started to implement circular economies into their long-term strategies. This shift incorporates external partners, NGOs, and charities to influence or guide the council toward its plan. Part of the Circular Economy Plan for Kent Greener Schools is to implement learning and development, food and lifestyle, and educational curriculum. While integrating climate, or rather nature, education is essential, such programs must remain impartial, fostering critical thinking rather than ideological alignment. Schools and educators have a responsibility to scrutinize the content and intent of these initiatives to ensure they serve the educational development of students without advancing hidden political agendas. To maintain educational integrity, it is essential to 1. Evaluate the behavioral tactics embedded in these programs. 2. Encourage diverse perspectives and critical inquiry. 3. Prioritize neutrality in the presentation of apparent global challenges and solutions. So on to the programs being implemented. Ironically, a large percentage of these programs are being directed from most previously well-respected universities including Reading, Keele, Leeds, and Manchester Metropolitan. These institutions have been awash with climate-led activist programs and have evolved relationships into heavily promoted non-governmental organizations such as Ashden.org, the Carbon Trust, the Soil Association, and not forgetting Fairtrade. Fairtrade's climate education efforts underscore the need for vigilance in ensuring that schools remain spaces for learning and inquiry, not vehicles for ideological influence. Fairtrade and climate education. A closer look at the political agenda and behavioral influence. Fairtrade, widely recognized for promoting equitable trade practices, has increasingly shifted its focus to climate education in schools and communities. These programs aim to raise awareness about the very controversial and unproven global impact of climate change, with embedded political and ideological narratives into educational frameworks, influencing behavior under the guise of sustainability and social responsibility. We are now seeing these example patterns more and more of questioning Western so-called privilege throughout our institutions. Educational tactics and behavioral influence. Curriculum integration. Fairtrade's resources, such as the Climate, Fairtrade, and U.PAC, emphasize how consumer choices in wealthier nations impact global communities. While presented as educational, these materials often frame climate change in a way that promotes specific ideological solutions, encouraging students to adopt Fairtrade products and align with its agenda. This approach mirrors the classic brainwashing tactics used by Marxists, who portrayed individuals achieving success as rich oppressors responsible for the world's suffering. It is a deliberate tactic rooted in leftist ideology, designed to divide society and perpetuate a cycle of conflict. By fostering resentment and guilt, this narrative pits people against one another, creating division while obscuring the role of elites manipulating the masses for their gain. On to the subtle behavioral conditioning. Program campaigns like Let's Go Zero leverage behaviorist tactics to instill climate-conscious habits among students and their families. These campaigns focus on collective action, linking personal behaviors, such as consumption patterns, to broader political goals like achieving carbon neutrality by 2030. Ironically, these tactics perfectly mirror the globalist-fueled agenda that is financially influencing corporations through schemes such as ESG.
Environmental, social, and governance, also called ESG, is a term used to represent the sustainable and ethical impacts of a company's corporate financial interests.
The activist framing. Fairtrade's messaging often blurs the line between education and activism, portraying specific political and economic models as the only ethical solutions to global challenges. This approach risks turning students into uncritical advocates of particular policies without providing space for balanced discussion or alternative perspectives. The political agenda behind the education. Fairtrade's climate education initiatives align closely with global frameworks that prioritize centralized solutions to climate issues. Many psychologists and educational authorities argue this narrative reflects a broader political agenda aimed at reshaping societal behaviors to align with ideological objectives, often under the direction of international organizations and corporate interests. Two key concerns. Behavioral science in education. The integration of behavioral science into educational programs has raised ethical concerns. By employing techniques designed to influence choices, such as nudging, Fairtrade's approach can be seen as manipulative rather than empowering, fostering compliance over critical thinking.
Do you consider ESG criteria or sustainability when making purchases or investment decisions? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe too.
Ideological bias. These programs promote specific political and economic frameworks, such as consumer-driven activism, without encouraging a critical examination of their effectiveness or unintended consequences. This one-sided narrative may marginalize alternative views and discourage intellectual diversity. Looking ahead, in 2025, the ECO Schools, another circular economies organization, will introduce projects such as Count Your Carbon. Their school and nursery carbon emissions calculator will introduce a new educational element, allowing pupils to simulate how different actions impact their school's carbon footprint. Under the Education Act 1996, schools are required to provide a balanced presentation of opposing views when teaching about political or controversial issues. For parents, teachers, and governors concerned about the direction local councils are taking under the influence of non-elected NGOs, there are practical steps we can take in coming together and question these deceptive narratives. Please contact Kent@heritageparty.org. Thank you.